The intake role, managers really tried to downplay that. I've sent you the job ad. Just get on with it. The ideal scenario of a call is actually quite long. I would say an hour, because the reason what you need is I need to tell me about the role. I need to tell me about how to sell it to the role. I need to know what I'm looking for, what skills. So therefore, I've got a good sense of actually, okay, I know what you kind of like, what you're looking for.
Initiating becoming a hiring machine sequence in 3, 2, 1.
Hey everyone, it's Sam Keenley, and welcome to Becoming a Hiring Machine. This is the show dedicated to fixing recruitment by going beyond saying what needs to change and instead teaches you how to make that change. Today, we've got a great interview ahead of us, but before we get into that, I just want to tell you a little bit about the show. Essentially, we have shows within the show here. Some days we have interviews with industry thought leaders and others who are shaking up the space, while other days we cover things like trending topics. Stop by every Tuesday for a Tactical Tuesday episode where we go deep on how to do something that's going to help you drive better results in your day-to-day. Some days we open up for Q&A, and other days you get a mic drop episode from Matt where he shares something that he's been thinking about within the recruitment space and wants you to know. And as a reminder, if you love the content that we share here on the show, make sure that you subscribe for more. All right, today's interview. If you go and scroll through LinkedIn for a few minutes, every day you're going to see usually two dominant thoughts about recruiting. The first type is that, the fundamentals are the fundamentals, nothing has changed at all. Then the second type is everything is changing and it's going in a new direction. So which is it? What do I need to think about and do as a recruiter to ensure that I'm going to continue to be successful? And if you've been listening to our podcast for some time now, you also know that we fall into that latter camp and recognize that the market is evolving, so recruitment needs to as well. And for today, I have a guest joining us who I've been really looking forward to having on, as he's someone who really is helping to pave the way for this new future. So today's guest is Darren Bush, the head of global talent acquisition at Ericsson, a leader in global communication. So get ready for a great conversation with tons of insights. Darren, welcome to the show.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Sam. Thanks very much for the intro. And great to be on the show as well.
Good.
So privileged to you to ask.
Yeah, and you were, when I first joined Loxo, it's been a year and a half now, I think you were one of the first two people that I followed on LinkedIn when I got outside my marketing sphere. People were just like, you need to follow Darren. Just go read his stuff. He is, and what I was saying earlier, like it truly at the cutting edge, and that's what we want to get to, is thinking about just like not just what is recruitment doing today, but where does it need to go? And also just all the other facets that you need to think about, not just like what can I do to make a better ATS, but what does this mean for the recruiter? What does this mean for the candidate? What does this mean for the organization as a whole? So I love that you really take this holistic lens. And I have a feeling a lot of this probably comes from just your experience over time. So before we get into kind of like what we want to get into today, like, could you just share a quick recap for anyone who may not be aware of you or anything, like just your path in getting to where you are?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So at the moment, like I said, I'm head of TA for group function global operations within Ericsson. I also acting head of talent attraction and sourcing as well within Ericsson. And how I got to where I am, started off from recruitment, working in an agency for 4 years back in the day, Michael Page, and then I've worked in, and it was actually, I sat down in my first week in an agency, and we had another company that did like platforms, vendor management platforms, and I sat down, I remember looking at a tool, and one of the things they were using it for a client, Morgan Stanley at the time, and I think the first week I was like, this is the future, like what I've just signed up for as an agency consultant. This is the future, using these tools and tech and giving it to the clients and making them accountable. So eventually, it took me 4.5 years to get there, and then worked in implementations and project management within those tools, recruitment. So I've been working in recruitment workforce tech for a number of years, and then I made this shift. I went to work in the NHS healthcare side, and then I moved across to Ericsson, where I've been nearly 5 years. Started off as a TA SME for tech products, and then I worked in the transformation as well for a couple of years, and now most recently more on an operational role. And before you answer your question, where do I get my kind of thoughts or ideas? It's mainly just looking at things and going, why do we do this? Why do we do it a certain way, and why can't we do it better? I've always had that curiosity, and I think it's something I had even as a consultant. I've always tried to better in terms of what I could do as a consultant to kind of improve things, speed, time, better quality, and I see to try and apply it as well, just day to day in my work.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, that's characteristic of the growth mindset, and just looking at things, not accepting them as they are, but what would it look like if this was better? If I could just go to the drawing board and make this something that I would want to use, something I would want to do, what would that be? And you're not shy about, asking those tough questions and
Yeah.
then bringing it to the vendors you work with, the internal work processes that you all are using. So if there's one takeaway just right in the first 5 minutes of people listening to this, it's like, it's adopt that type of mindset as you approach all these. So appreciate that background. I think that's really going to help as we get into what we're basically going to say is like the overarching problem that you're seeing in today's world. I know you shared with me beforehand, but I do not want to take your words out of your mouth for it. So I'd love to hear it from your perspective.
Yeah, I think you can't help miss it when you're on LinkedIn. One of the challenges you have in the market is around is the candidate user experience, the candidate experience, as you want to call it. The fact that we have ghosting is on the increase, is there, is prevalent. The fact that people are applying and not hearing anything back for weeks and months on end, or just a rejection. The experience of the candidate hasn't been the level it should be from that side. And considering we're as companies and obviously as a provider you're trying to reach that audience, it's amazing about the experience that we give back to the people. I'd say that is definitely one of the biggest challenge. And I think I mentioned it before. It's around also I don't want to be the guy who just drums on about candidate experience. I'm huge on recruit experience. I'm big on hiring manager experience, because for me, if you fix those two, you can definitely improve the candidate experience. If you can fix the recruit experience and hiring manager experience, that kind of trickles down and hopefully feeds back to the candidate.
Mm-hmm. And I think so many, platforms like, Loxo, Bullhorn, insert whatever tech you're using, we all focus on the recruiter experience. And even recruiters are thinking about, how can I do better in my role? What do I need to do? But you're coming at this from the candidate experience. So tell me why you think this is so impactful as a recruiter, that things get better on the candidate side.
Yeah, so for the recruiter itself, I think if you've got engaged candidates and you're looking for warm leads as a recruiter. So that might be the case that when you create the job, you're getting inbound applications. That's the warmest. But then when you've got your CRM, like you do obviously at Luxo, you want warm candidates, people who've been contacted, people who've been spoken to most recently. And what we find, obviously, when you have those tools, is sometimes you don't go to those candidates because they haven't been spoken to for months, and they might have changed and it require different questions. So for a recruiter, if you've got an engaged talent pool, engaged candidate database, that's beneficial for you. That's a good place to be. You've got more updated information. So I see that. I think that the problem is, I don't think we are communicating enough with them or being transparent and getting that feedback loop. I think we're all focused in the recruiting side is we need to fill the job. We've got to fill that job. We've got to focus on applying that. And for that, we'll need 10 candidates in here, and then we get 5 at shortlist, and then 3 will go to interview and so on. You're focusing on that a little bit, not really about what else is going on there. So.
Okay. And I know, it sounds so easy to say, but I'm sure there's recruiters listening like, Darren, I've got 10,000 candidates in my database. What do you expect me to do to improve that for every single one of them? I'm already working 5 different jobs right now. How could I possibly be staying in touch with them or keeping things up to date so that, I might pick up a job 2 months from now that they'll be perfect for, but I haven't worked with them or talked to them in 3 years. Like, what's kind of your thought process there?
Yeah, good questions. It comes down to 2 things. What I would like to see more of. And you might be working on, say, 30, 40 recs. So, and you've got, you said, hundreds of candidates as well that you've got under that. So how do you reach out to them, all of them? So there's one I'd like to see, the things that evolve, is the ability to, say, broadcast a bit more. So you give an update to candidates and you broadcast in terms of, you might not, your manager might, for example, might be sitting on some CVs or may not give some feedback or whatever. But if you can broadcast to the 50 or 100 or whatever in that, or if, for example, you're getting a lot of CVs, you haven't had a chance yet to shortlist and do screening, you could just do a broadcast to the hundreds and say, thanks for your application. I'm going to be starting shortlisting in the next couple of days. And kind of that information there, they got about, you might get some emails going back, but at least it gives that information back to the candidate to say, this is what's going on, some transparency there. I can send one message, hit 100 people straight away, and they know exactly what's coming on. And then everyone knows in the pipeline.
Yeah. And do you think this is a tech issue, or do you think this is just a workflow issue and
it could be
more
both.
transparent?
I'd say it could be both. Yeah, I'd say there's definitely a workflow issue. You could build, I'm sure that the tech does provide that. You can just build that workflow in there. It could be maybe the case you can have make it easier for the recruiter to do that. You can click on, go to a box and say, broadcast this out. Another one is like, you might be on holiday for 2 weeks, right? You might be transitioning to others. You can broadcast that to 40 jobs, all your candidates. I'm going to be on holiday for the next 2 weeks. Here's my cover, and so on. So again, gives that sort of transparency. And I suppose the next one around, which is probably more to your point about how can we keep the candidates engaged, is that it created this concept of candidate waiting time or idle time. So you pick up the phone on services, and you know when you're dialing. I don't know what it's like for everyone else, but I call my GP. It's like I'm 7 or 8 in the line, and it just gives you understanding where you are in the process. The candidate waiting time has kind of got the same concept, except what it does, it tracks when was the last time I spoke to you. That's what I'm looking at. When was the last time I spoke to you about this job? So if I've got 100 people apply and people then go through screening, if for the last time the last time I contacted a candidate is 10 days, 2 weeks. You could have a list of all the candidates you haven't spoken for 2 weeks, and it may be the case you might have screened them and you maybe put them as a maybe, and you didn't think they're right, but they're not rejected, but they're maybe. But 2 weeks is a long time for people to wait, and that information isn't coming back at the recruiter. Nothing sort of screaming at the candidate say these people are waiting 2 weeks. I haven't heard from you for 3 weeks or 4 weeks, whatever. And I want to see that in the market where the waiting time for a candidate is front and center for the recruiter. So they can use the broadcast feature, or they can just literally reject them because, you know what, maybe they are or no. And I see that a lot with what I see on LinkedIn, where people are posting a lot of candidates, especially within the TA space, saying I applied 5-6 weeks, maybe 8 weeks, come back, and then literally I get emailed saying I've been rejected. And the only way that's worked is you've applied, the person screened you, has probably said you're a maybe or you're not, or not sure about. And then they've just literally waited until the job is filled and rejected you. If you had the candidate waiting time, you can see that numbers that per day is going up and down, is going up. And it's something I love to see more in the market.
Mm-hmm. And it's so simple. That's why I love it. I mean, you have all of these just like quality of hire metrics that are so vague, and people are thinking about this. And this is such a simple, easy to understand, and it's so impactful because everyone's been in the shoes of, I just applied. And if you think 2 weeks, oh, that doesn't sound long. Spend 24 hours waiting to hear back. As soon as you put that application, you're refreshing your inbox. Like, I can't wait to hear back. You have excitement. And if you can keep that enthusiasm going too, that's only going to help you in the long term as a hiring organization, as a recruiter, whatever. Is like, this organization respects me. They understand what I'm going through. Like, even if I don't get the job, I'm going to recommend them to other people. So simple and impactful.
And what you're doing is you're putting out a service in the future. I'd love to see that when you go to apply for a job, this recruiter, the longest you'll have to wait is 7 days. For anything. You as a recruiter or you as a hiring manager, you can then start saying the hiring manager as well as part of the team. On average, you'll hear back within 10 days. No matter what stage you're at, whether you're applied, you're going to hear back within 10 days to say whether you applied or not. So you can then have companies competing to say, like, we're trying to get that time down. But then now I've got a more engaged talent pool. I've got a more engaged list of people that are hearing something back, and that is there's obviously transparency is the other problem within the recruitment that we don't share, but waiting, that's another issue in terms of just sitting there, just kind of waiting for something to come back to you, and not knowing, or if anything at all.
Yeah, so this is brand new metric. Companies have never used it. Recruiters have never used it. Candidates have never experienced it before. So when people are like, what's best practice? What should I expect? That's obviously going to be completely brand new. So how do you see companies working this in? How do you see it being showcased as part of like job application process? Like, where do you see all that sitting?
And so what I would say is, what some people would look at it and go, is this candidate waiting time by stage? And first of all, so I like, because that might be think some people might be listening to going, that what potentially could be. Then by that I mean is how long if you look as a recruiter, what we do measure is how long does it take a candidate to be in screening stage, how long does it take him in shortlist, and they'll measure that. And the answer to that question is not the same, because what you're measuring is a bucket of individuals, and you're just looking at what's for you, how long it's taking you to get to the stage. What the candidate waiting time is saying is, how long is it that each candidate, how long are they waiting for to be hearing back, and when was the last time they were contacted? So to do the last contact is going to be tricky, and this is where as a whole TA function will have to come together. But what you're trying to, if you use for example, we say Loxo, if you use your ATS and CRM like you should do, it will all be in the system. However, if you as a recruiter making phone calls, maybe doing WhatsApp messages, it's going to be really tricky to measure because they were contacted on WhatsApp. If you can bring all of that into one place, if you have messaging in there as well, and make sure that whatever you communicate is always in the platform, you could definitely measure this. You can measure and have a list of all the candidates, how long they were the last waiting time. So I'd put a rule and say on average, start off with like 2 weeks. Start with longest a candidate can wait is 2 weeks, no matter what, and build in a column next to the candidate in the ATS and to say when was the last time they were contacted, as in when the last time when a message was sent by a recruiter for that job, and then as soon as it's contacted, it resets to 0. And therefore it goes to 0, and then it will go up again, and so on. And if every time they requested for an interview, that's another time they're contacted, which is great. Goes down to 0. Every time they request another interview, it goes back to 0 again. So it's always reset. And then start doing there, and then the next stage will eventually be like start measuring your recruiters. How long on your 40 jobs you're working on? What's the average you're doing for each candidate? And it might be higher on some jobs and lower on others. Great, we'll have a look at that. We can try and maybe look at your segmentation of your jobs. So maybe for a professional specialist or niche role, you're taking longer, but for other something else, early careers is maybe it's shorter because it's so intense. And then start publishing that as well. When you put that job out online, it'd be great to start seeing that as well. And like having your that we do in terms of your 28-day policy. When you return goods and services. Maybe you can start putting that out as well. Say, as a recruiter, I'll come back to you within 14 days. And I think that's where we'll get to. And I'm sure people will take it on and take it to another level that I haven't even thought of. But that would say it's like a 2-phase approach.
Yeah, I love it. I'm already looking down as I was taking notes as you're saying that, different thoughts. The first one is, you go into a McDonald's, and as soon as I'm making up the number here, 5 minutes passes and your order isn't served, the workers start you hear the beeps going off, the order goes from green to red, signals are firing like, hey, this customer is waiting longer than our desired time. So I could see something easily popping up in a dashboard for you. Hey, you just passed the 2-week mark on reaching out to this candidate on any of these recs or something, like just something simple that, again, this is exactly what tech is for. You shouldn't have to go and manually look at a spreadsheet and see like, when did I last talk to them? Like have that surfaced for you, and it makes it so simple. So I love that. And I also like that we're working in a new time metric that isn't time to fill, because that sometimes rushes the wrong behaviors. I just want to get someone in the seat. I don't care if they're the best fit, if they're an okay fit, but it's a new metric that has you thinking about, okay, how am I working with the market? How am I working with the candidates to have some other time-based metric that isn't just around like this speed to fill, so to speak. So just a different, like, for those who like to gamify and play with different metrics.
True. Yeah. No, as recruiters as well, you definitely want to be competing with your colleagues. Yeah. Like trying to work out, like I've got mine, like an Uber rating. Well, I don't know if you've ever done that, and you get your phones out with your friends and say, what's your Uber rating? Yeah. And it's like 4.67 and someone else has got like 4.9. You're like, no. What have I done?
This holistic score. Yeah. I love it.
Yeah. So I think that's the same. You want to be doing like, candidate wait sum. What's your candidate wait sum? I'm sure I'm sure people will be KPI'd and bonused potentially in the future to say that they got their candidate waiting time down to below 7, which is on the number of recs. That's and hopefully we'll see a sort of transition from the NPS scores for candidates. You can do NPS surveys as well at the same time. You can see the sort of the correlation by having a low candidate waiting time. Hopefully the NPS scores are higher as well.
Now, how do you foresee this factoring in? So you have like the different segments of recruiting. Like, is this going to be more impactful for those who are doing high profile executive search type recs? Is it going to be more impactful for more volume based roles where it's ICs who might be getting more vocal? Like, do you see any ideas around where this may be more, not less impactful, but just how it might impact those different segments?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's probably the way you're going to message will be different then on that basis. I think it will still be the same. You still measure it the same, but for your your niche, your exec roles, you probably pick up the phone as well a bit more, having those conversations with those kind of candidates. So the time will still be around the same. You want to keep it with a minimum, especially if it's a very competitive market, you want to keep close to them as much as possible. For the volume roles, you're probably not picking up the phone all the time. You're probably sending a bulk message. That's where it comes out of the broadcast, sending a bulk message to 50 or 100 in one go, and hitting people that way, and doing it quickly. So yeah, I'd say it's just your approach might be different itself, but I'd like to think that it applies across all the different segments.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I like that. So the medium is changing, but the concept is remaining the same. Just like you need to stay in touch with them, you need to stay in front of them, keep them informed. So, okay, I like this. So we've got this rising candidate experience going up. So in the past couple of years, compensation, transparency has become more and more prominent on job postings, how much can you expect to raise. Yeah. And then now, like, being able to work in, hey, the average time to just getting an update from us, hearing back from us, you will hear every 3 days, every week, every 14 days. We promise something to you. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly right. And it sounds brilliant when you're telling me. My nervousness as a recruiter, maybe listening to this, go, wow, it's going to be a lot more work. So we just got to make sure that the tools and the platform and then how we do it and the medium and says how they do it it sets them up for success, rather than giving them another 20, 30 things to think about as well on top of that. How can we do the bulk messaging? How can we do automated workflows? How do we do some triggers? You could put a status update in your system, and essentially when it hits a certain level, you could have some, it could look at the status update, pull that information and send it to all the candidates who've hit that 14 days, for example, and therefore you'd have to do it manually at all. It's kind of doing it automatically, automated triggered workflows. So yeah, I'm sure there'll be lots of different ways you can do it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And that's the beauty of, like, I've just been nerding out on workflows with Matt lately. And these are the types of things where we say, like, tech should do all this for you. And I'm not going to plug Loxo here intentionally, but like, we have those workflows. So it's like advanced stages. You can look at different fields on candidates. Hey, you haven't been in touch with them in 14 days. Just automatically send something or trigger this to do that. That can all take care of it for you. It's just a matter of having a partner or having a tool that you can have the ability to build that into your workflow, and then it handles it for you. So I'm sure that, again, the more that you start to really champion this candidate waiting time, more organizations are going to expect it. Tools tech is going to jump up to it, because that's going to be the new rising expectation in the market.
Yeah. I think you raised a good point as well. I think one thing I'd like to see more is we talk a lot, there's a lot of talk about recruiter enablement, but tools enablement is like another piece where you just talked about triggered workflows. And when you get a new recruiter coming in, sometimes they just, or maybe they come from a different company and they've used System 4 and they just think, well, it's quite similar and I'll be able to work my way around it and figure everything out. But if you had someone always in the organization who's going, this is the latest release, here's a real good shortcut, this could save you 30 minutes a day. I think I'd love to see more of that as well coming out from the industry, just within teams itself, saying, rather than just have they always have one SME, but it'd be good to sort of have a team of people talking about tools enablement.
And this is something I know people always say, recruiting tech is always like 5-10 years behind MarTech, sales tech. I remember an in-house organization I was at about 5 years ago, a few years before I left, they had built out this sales enablement team. There was literally this exact type of thing, because especially when you're at a larger organization, you're going to have multiple tools, you're going to have multiple processes, you're going to have people coming in and out of the organization as a whole. And it's really tough to bring them up to speed if you just say, like, hey, here's all of our stuff, go. But when you have someone who can teach them, can show them, and can go through all of that, I fully see that happening with recruiting, especially when you're at larger in-house organizations, when you're at a larger agency. So fully see that happening, where I'm wondering, and a lot of our listeners are usually in like the smaller side agencies, where it's like, hey, there's 4 of us doing this every day. I'm the owner. I've got a sourcer. I've got an admin. How do you see them being able to stay on with something like this?
Yeah, I mean, I'd see it with what you do at Loxo as well, and just see if you can send some of the sessions, the 15 minutes, the 30-minute sessions itself, and just to upskill them, and then team meetings where they can share. So they will have team meetings every week. Sometimes they have daily meetings, but if they have every week, it's like rather than just some team meetings you go to, and I know I'm sure people listening just kind of going over the same ground or what someone's done, whatever. Would be great, just 15 minutes. Here's an upskill. Little kind of facts or something I've learned from the system. Does anyone know this? I'm going to give you 15 minutes. I'm going to quickly show you something I found that just teaches and shares with everyone. So yeah, I'm a big fan of making team meetings more so valuable, and bringing something to the team as well that you've learned something that week or that day. So yeah, try to do that if you can.
Yeah, some good old. I mean, I remember in my early days, lunch and learns was such a big
Yes.
thing. You just
Yeah.
bring your brown bag, go hop in for a 30-minute session, 15 minutes teaching, 15 minutes Q&A, and it's just very casual.
Yep. Yeah. The key, I think, that make them so regularly. You know, you got weekly lunch and learns. Sometimes you know, because they're in the diaries, like people trying to create something new when it's probably just that you don't need it. Do it sporadically. Try and bring like if every week, just say like this week we got anything? No, nothing. But like let's try and at least 2 or 3 times out of the month try to bring something to the table, and that way you kind of you build that kind of curiosity for people to share and experience.
And it helps you stay on top of trends more too, because it's not these forced sessions where you've got this year already planned out. If something pops up, AI, like all of a sudden, what are we doing for AI and sourcing? This is a new thing that just showed up yesterday. Like you can touch on that, or workflows, whatever's relevant for the team. You can fully get into that.
Yeah, definitely on because you got GPT in your AI sourcing, and your outbound emails are like outreach emails as well. So by the way, guys, I changed it here and I put a different prompt in, and I got this really good email that's actually increased my my reply by 3 or 4%. Just that little one tweak. It's like share that with the group.
So are you all doing this internally? Something like this?
We would like to do that. Yeah, we would like to do that. Actually, it's different pockets, different teams across around the different countries, regions will do these.
Okay, because the reason that stems is when you're talking about that example, just with the outreach and GPT, is a lot of value I often seen comes from when like your peers find something and they present, versus always having the same leader, the same one individual that's kind of like megaphoning out everyone, because that's much more practical when it's like you see your peer did this and it drove the results. So just to tag on to that thought is like enable the team to share themselves and not always feel like it has to be them being spoken at as a some type of session.
Definitely agree. Yeah, we have quarterly town halls, and we have a combination sometimes where it's just us, obviously, imparting knowledge and sharing updates, and then we have obviously from the recruiters also sharing what they've done or things that improve projects they've worked on, and we hear really good things about whenever the recruiters share, because it's relevant. It's kind of a really good case study. They want to share the notes, and the recruiters as well. They get a lot from it as well. From sharing, it's kind of gives them that kudos and a limelight really to share with others.
Yeah. All right. So, want to get your take on tech. You see a lot of tech between just like what you do in your current role and also just how you're naturally curious about the market and everything else. So, I want to keep this positive. I don't want to go negative. Like, what tech are you bullish on? Like, what are the things that excite you? Where do you see opportunity lying ahead?
Yeah, so right now I'd say I'm bullish on interview intelligence platforms, and by that let me define that: tools that help the managers and the recruiters to do screening interviews and actual interviews or panel interviews, and run reports. So platforms that predominantly will record interviews. So where I would say that the ideal state would be in the kickoff or intake call, whatever you call it, the recruiter to come in and actually create a plan of the interview. Like, what's the transfer? How many interview stages do you have? Who's going to be interviewing? And start drilling into the manager to say, what are you looking for? And this will then come to the quality of hire. So if we go fast forward right at the end and we make a call and a manager goes, I really like this person because they're goal oriented, say it was a sales role, they're goal orientated, curious. Great. Well, when we had the kickoff call, that wasn't mentioned as like one of the key criteria of when we actually were looking for when we as a skill. We say at the end. So if you can get that information at the beginning and say, what are you looking for? What are the essential things? And then build question bank from it. Give all the questions there. And therefore, when it comes to all the screening calls for the recruiter, they can ask certain questions and share that with the manager. When it comes to the interview, next stage or panel interviews, all the questions and the key criteria is already covered. It's structured into you. It's you know exactly what you're looking for. So when in the debrief session, you can have all the candidates available, and it makes that process easier. Interviewing is basically a black box. Why hiring managers choose an individual, I have no idea. it differs to, his guts, which is not ideal. They're asking potentially questions that are not really related to the job. It's really a free reign. And as a recruiter, we rely on the managers to do the interview and obviously sell the role. And then when they don't, it's a challenge, and sometimes it's put back on us. Here is now, what we're seeing is a tool here that can record those interviews with the managers. They can see if they turned up on time. Are they punctual? How much talk time they have? Did they sell the company? And did they talk about the role itself in detail? And then when they do the debrief session, and they come back and say, "Oh, it's really important that they had goal orientated, and that's why I gave someone an 8 and I gave someone a 6." But you get a sense of that what was the main thing that you're looking for, and you get a flavour for that. And I see this like with the reports you can do. This is the future for us. Right now, interviews aren't recorded globally. When you go for an interview, that it's not recorded at all. I think by 2 years, 3 years, it'll be mandatory that we recorded. I think you would expect as a candidate and a hiring manager that these will be recorded.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, my brain is spinning on this one with all of the different things. And, you keep mentioning like the debrief, and something that I haven't heard as much from lately. And it goes back to the fundamentals are just taking a proper brief before you even get started. I feel like so many recruiters are just approached by a hiring manager, someone saying, "Hey, I need a new account executive. I need a new project manager. I need a new back-end developer." And that's it. They aren't saying, what are the skills that you were talking about earlier? What's important to them? Because so much you can go and just type in, okay, I'm going to go to LinkedIn Recruiter or wherever. I need an account executive. But if there are certain other things that are important, they have experience in certain industries, they have certain types of skill sets or backgrounds. So much of that is missing. And I think that's what sometimes also leads to that frustration between the recruiter and the hiring manager. This is not what I wanted. It's like, well, this is all you told me. This is all you gave me. So it's setting the foundation properly and like, okay, if you want me to do the search well for you, you have to sit down for 30 minutes and really think about what is important and what's critical to the role. Because especially account executives, they know how to turn it on. You're not going to have a bad interview with any of them. They know how to show up and sell themselves, right? So you're going to like all of them, no matter what. They're going to be charismatic. But by having the ability to look at those core skills, you can ask the more detailed questions versus just tell me about your best success. What's your biggest weakness? Like, the interview questions that aren't super helpful. And then, and the interview intelligence, I'm almost wondering for the recording, would that be audio, video? Like, do you think it'll ever get sophisticated enough where it's reading body language, tonality, anything like that?
Potentially in the future, probably it could do that, but I would see it being audio, video as the first batch. I think to your point about the account executive, you can, as a recruiter now, you can ask what kind of questions you need me to ask. So and I'll record it and I'll show you the snippets of those. I'll show you not only the CV of the candidates, but I'll show you a little snippet of those questions you asked me specifically, so you get a flavour of that. So straight away, I'm like thinking, oh, that saved me a bit of time. I get an idea of what the person's saying, what experience they've got. There's also this move about about the CV. You shouldn't rely on the CV. Well, here's an opportunity then just to listen and see their answers to certain questions. Maybe a scenario question as well. You give them and hear their answers straight back. The other point I was going to make is you're right about the intake, or we managers really tried to downplay that. I've sent you the job ad. Just get on with it. So what the ideal scenario of a call is actually quite long, and people might be like I would say an hour, because the reason what you need is I need somebody about the role. I need somebody about how to sell it to the role. I need to know what I'm looking for, what skills, qualifications. I want to bring CVs to the meeting because I want to share some CVs. I want to get a sense of what do you like. Actually, when I get some CVs in front of you and you say no, why you say no? What was it that made you say no? Why did you say yes to that one? So therefore, I've got a good sense of actually, okay, I know what you kind of like, what you're looking for, as well in there. So I'll look for that as well in any CV searching, but I'll look for that as well when I screen candidates. So I imagine them being long, and that is a difficult sell for hiring managers. But if they get it right up front, then it saves you time later down the line.
Yeah, and there's so much, I don't want to call it irony, in the fact that like talent is your biggest investment. And so many people just want to work, like as you said, just get on with it. I want an account executive, go figure it out from there. When you have that account executive in the role, 9 months later, you're wondering why they're missing quota. You're trying to figure out how can I optimize the win rate by 5% and spending time on that versus what if you just spent a little bit longer finding the proper person for that role, how much time and money that would have saved you and how much more revenue they would make your company because they're a better sales rep for what you do. So it's so interesting that we sometimes focus on the wrong things and take for granted this thing where I don't know why we just think hiring is this super easy process. Go slap a job up, we'll get someone in the seat, we'll train them, they're going to be the best person ever. It's like, no, you can stack the cards in your favor so that you're going to win when you get that person.
And the manager, I think with the manager, you just think it's just you. I'm the only person hiring in the world for this role, so so they'll come, but it's like, well, there's hundreds of account executive roles, why this one? Because on the low, when I read the job ad, nothing's standing out in terms of what it compares to the next one.
No. Oh man, that cracks me up. Yeah, they're gonna come. They know who our company is. It's like, I don't know about that. The
other one I'd probably say, I'm not saying I know too much, but I can definitely see an increase is probably the AI agents. Kind of like we're seeing different agents of different parts of the process. And the ability to do screening, I don't know. I think it's going to take time, but we've had chatbots before. They're very formulaic, but actually having a tool now that understands the role, understands that there's been an AI agent that's been on the intake call with the manager for an hour, has understood kind of what the manager's looking for, and then when you do a screening now with a potential bot. It'll be you're getting a much better experience. You're getting much better in terms of like the questions being asked and the information that you're getting back. I'd say you have that at the screening call. You might have that potentially as a part of your candidate journey. You could always ask a question, what's going on, and it'll be able to answer back. I think there is something along that lines in the future that's coming.
I really like it for you're saying like the status updates. Hey, what's going on? Where's the latest? Where are they at in the process? And I always like to play devil's advocate with other questions too. I could see, candidate gets screened and goes through that interview with the AI bot, and then they get rejected. So obviously they're going to have a log of this conversation, but do you think that there would be a need to have some type of like an override, so to speak? It's like when you call customer support, somewhere just representative. I want to talk to someone. Like, do you think there's going to be some version of that we'd have to account for?
Potentially, the whole shortcut 0, like just to get through. It might be. I might have to good point. You'll be talking as if you want to speak to actually someone, then call this number. You could speak to a recruiter, and you have to be waiting on the queue for that.
So maybe that's.
But right now you don't have that access really to call a recruiter unless you've actually got requested for an interview when you got the number. It's rare to get the recruiter call number straight up.
Yeah, that's true. So maybe that's where the middle ground is, and like, hey, we're gonna have a faster hiring process for you here, and just lay that out in the expectations. The first call is gonna be with an AI bot. They're gonna go through like our standard stuff, any questions it would have, and we'll be able to give you an output, like almost a scoring mechanism of why you did or didn't meet the mark for us. What skills do we not pick up? And usually, I think if you're pretty transparent with that, and people aren't able to speak to it, see it in the CV, anything else, they'll be like, okay, yeah, that's fair. They wanted this certain industry experience. They wanted this person to be able to write SQL, whatever it is, and I can't do that. I feel like that could be a big opportunity for recruiters, because so many recruiters right now are very passive about saying why. Sorry, we passed you up for this role. There was a better candidate, right? So this could be a little bit more detailed in that and probably be better received, because I don't know, like, not to say it takes a personal element out of it, but it's just very logical matter of fact for that first stage where it's just like, let's proceed or let's not.
Easily, you're right. I mean, it's not black and white, unfortunately, and the people who say it should be, you either a yes or a no, but there's that middle ground at times, and that's that murky ground because sometimes the manager's not clear. He's always like back in your head, you're like, oh, maybe I'll send this candidate because maybe they're a bit of a curveball. And that's why it's so difficult to reject. And I think as an industry as well, we're not very good at rejecting people. I think we as humans are not very good at rejecting people. So it comes with kind of part of the service.
Yeah, it's a tough part of the role, especially for such a high EQ role that recruitment usually is. Like, you don't want to be giving bad news all the time or feel bad about that. That's a heavy weight to carry. So, all All right, I've got time for one last topic. Let's go with influencers. You're seeing the rise of them across LinkedIn, podcast, TikTok, anywhere and everywhere. How do you see this coming into play when it relates to talent attraction?
Yeah, good question. This comes actually from a conversation I've had with another provider around. It's called Flockity, which is, I say, the first around influencer marketing. And they brought so if you look at the influencing market outside of talent attraction, a lot of brands, a lot of companies use influencers to get brand attraction, looking to potentially win more customers, or just at least be aware of the product itself and help with around maybe sort of with sales itself. That hasn't really happened so much in the talent industry. So if you're if you're Nike, you've got a big brand already. It's people apply to that company anyway. But if you've got a smaller company, medium-sized company, potentially this is something you can look at. They don't know you. Maybe you're a B2B company. Ericsson, we're very much a B2B. People still kind of remember us or think of us as making phones. I'm pretty sure when I actually said in my intro, people were going, they make phones, but actually they don't make phones. So what do they do? So maybe you could do something around doing an influencer marketing around explaining what the brand is, what they do, and just kind of getting that brand attraction. So I'd say that in influencer, this is a new space that could happen. It could pop up a bit more, where people are sharing that. And from what I've seen from that company I mentioned, they're doing that. They're creating. There's people, an audience that are following maybe 10, 20,000 followers, not a huge amount, but they're very loyal followers, and you're introducing to a new brand, explaining about what they do, new job opportunities, and you're just kind of creating that awareness as well there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I've seen this play out in one lens, and I want to get your take on the other one.
Yeah.
I'll call it the primary lens today. I see it as, I call it like the New York Yankees strategy, or like the Man City, the Real Madrid strategy, where it's like just bringing all the all-stars to your team.
Yeah.
People are going to be like, I want to go play with them. I want to go work with them. And you use that as almost like you bring the influencers in, but they actually work for you as part of the organization and want to attract people that way. So are you seeing this be similar to that? Or are you saying like that partner with influencers who don't formally work with us, but how did they then, like, how are you working with them to help attract the right people for you?
Yeah, I haven't thought about that way. Even though it's great that you can bring movie stars or something like that to come and sit down and yeah. Tom Cruise is going to be screening CVs for the next hour. If you apply in this position, and we'll do it live. We'll do it with audio. We won't see the CVs itself. I mean, yeah, you can know comedians potentially doing it as well. That's novel. I think that's interesting, and definitely create some brand awareness. I would say it isn't that, but I think maybe that someone might do that just for the day. I know that, for example, I've got to hear Stephen Bartlett. He talks about he reviews his CVs. It's something part of his job he does every day, every week. He always as someone as senior as him, as a CEO, reviewing CVs. I'd say it's more about bringing in like a brand name, and just having them talk about what you do, and showcasing what you do. Like in theory, like a partner itself. For some reason, I'm racking my brains. I can't think of any famous people right now. But if you had someone who was, if I say Stephen Bartlett here in the UK, you brought him in and said he recommends. I mean, he does it for his podcast. Right? You go and watch his podcast. He talks about Huel. He talks about all those. He's partnering there. It's the same with just kind of mentioning it about the company, just posting about it on LinkedIn, saying, I just met this company. They're doing some great things. Really interesting, sort of talent team they're building there. They've got some great job opportunities. It's worth checking out if you're someone who's this, and that. They're looking for those kind of people, and that's just another way of getting increasing the funnel, rather than just kind of maybe advertising just on job boards all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It's a different way of sort of a disruptor for people to make them think about it.
Taking the credibility of the trust they've established, and then getting them to associate with you and bring that over. Okay.
Yeah.
Well,
I like the idea though. It's like Tom Cruise coming in and screening CVs for an hour. That's different.
Yeah. I mean, you get some famous comedian just like do your rejections for you.
Yes.
Can you imagine? Just absolutely shred people, but they would be laughing at it. It would be like, okay, that's fine. I want to get rejected by this company anyway, knowing that.
Yeah.
That'd be a funny one. But no, I was thinking more along the lens of just like these companies that have the unlimited bankrolls, so to speak, to be able to hire all these people. Like, I worked previously at this marketing agency where we had very vocal people on LinkedIn. A bunch of people would follow us and everything else. And it created this concept of just like talent density. I know Hung Lee talks about it a good bit as well. And then the more people you have coming into that, you then have, that attracts people inbound for you. They see, like, okay, I want to go work at Ericsson. I want to be on Darren's team. I want to be on, if you have 5 other great people over there. But I haven't found a good way to help bridge that gap yet, short of just like, it's just groundswell activity to go on and be ruthless in only hiring A players, people who truly believe in the mission, and then finding some way to put a spotlight on them and using that to attract as well.
It's still very new, this area, but you're right, and it's trying to find where's the concentrate of those candidates, where do they go, who are they following potentially, that we could attract, that would be open them up.
Fun problems to solve for ahead, but it'll be fun. I like this just goes back to just all in all, how do we not just think about improving the recruiter experience, but the candidate experience. That's going to be so impactful as time goes on. So as we wrap, any other final thoughts, pointers, comments that you wanna drop before we end this one?
It's honestly, it's been. I love what you're doing in terms of like trying to think about it and push the envelope. Well, yeah, probably one thing is if you're an individual in as a recruiter or senior leader, is try and fix one problem. Have a look in your company and try and see if you can fix one problem. Every year we start off with our OKRs or goals, and we want to do about 10 things, 15 things. Just try and actually just look at one issue, one challenge, and see what you can do for that year, and see if you can fix that one thing, because it makes such a big difference. And I would love it for it to be candidate waiting time as well. And if you do, just send me a message, tell me what you're doing around that. I'd love to hear about it.
Okay, perfect. And that's a perfect segue. Like, where do you want people to find you, to communicate with you, to follow your thoughts, things like that?
Yeah. So I'm on LinkedIn. So feel free to reach out, connect me on LinkedIn, and message me on there. Very visible there. I'm on there every day. So let's say Darren Bush at LinkedIn.
Okay. Perfect. Well, Darren, truly appreciate you joining. I know we've been coordinating this one for some time, and glad we could finally make it happen. So truly appreciate you coming, sharing this knowledge, thoughts, and also just like where you think the market's headed, and really getting recruiters to start taking that into account as they plan out. I know we're midway through the year right now, but how they want to be moving forward and making sure that they're evolving with the times as well.
No, really, honestly, thanks very much for inviting me on. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah. Good. All right. Well, as we wrap, Becoming a Hiring Machine is a production of Loxo. If you love this episode, but you're not sure where to go next, we've got a link to a similar one in the show notes. Full video episodes are available on YouTube if you want to check those out. And like Darren said, if you have questions, send them to us, podcast@loxo.co. Find Darren on LinkedIn or us. Happy to field any there. And lastly, if you enjoyed this episode, make sure you leave us a quick rating in your podcast. It takes 3 seconds, but it's going to help recruiters like you to find us. So all right, everyone, that's the show. That was an amazing interview with Darren Bush. Till next time. Bye, y'all.